Ancient Egypt sat at the center of the world, with markets overflowing with grain and gold, and palaces built to display power that felt eternal. Pharaoh reigned not just as a king, but as a self-declared god. He claimed the title of Supreme Lord, demanding his subjects walk in prostration. To maintain this status, he relied on the systematic subjugation of the Bani Israel. He kept them as a permanent underclass, forcing the men into grueling labor on his monuments, while the women were kept alive only to ensure the cycle of slavery continued. One night, a dream stripped that confidence away. He saw a fire incinerating Egyptian homes, leaving the dwellings of the Bani Israel entirely untouched. His court astrologers gave him a terrifying interpretation. A boy born to the Bani Israel would soon rise to destroy his throne. To prevent the prophecy, Pharaoh issued a formal decree to slaughter every newborn boy. Pharaoh's response was a signed decree of execution. To protect his throne, he was forced to hunt infants in their cradles, inadvertently signaling that a single child posed a greater threat than any foreign army. During this period of state-sanctioned murder, Musa was born. His mother, acting on divine assurance, placed him in a small wooden basket and set him adrift on the current of the Nile, hoping the river would provide safety. The water carried the basket directly to the banks of Pharaoh's palace. It was Pharaoh's own wife, Hazrat Asiya, who discovered the child and decided to adopt him. The very boy Pharaoh feared was now being raised and protected within the royal walls. Musa grew to adulthood in the palace, but was eventually forced into exile in the land of Madian. Years later, while tending sheep near Mount Tur, he was called by Allah to return to Egypt and challenge the man who called him son. Pharaoh had built massive defenses to protect his empire from outside threats, yet the cause of his downfall had already spent years living at his own table. Musa and Harun entered the royal court to demand freedom for the Bani Israel. Pharaoh dismissed the request, mocking the message as a mere contest of sorcery. To humiliate Musa, Pharaoh gathered the most prominent magicians in Egypt. They threw their ropes and staffs, creating a mass illusion of hundreds of slithering snakes. Musa responded by dropping his shepherd's staff. It transformed into a massive serpent, swallowing the magician's illusions, proving his power was a physical reality. Recognizing the difference between stagecraft and a divine display, the magicians abandoned their allegiance to Pharaoh, falling into prostration before the god of Musa. Pharaoh had lost his monopoly on truth in front of his entire court. Rather than acknowledging the miracle, he doubled down on his pride, setting the stage for the physical collapse of his nation. When Pharaoh refused to let the Bani Israel go, a series of 5 plagues began to systematically dismantle Egypt. First, a massive storm battered the delta, flooding the fields and destroying the season's agriculture. Then, swarms of locusts arrived, consuming every remaining leaf and stalk that the floods had missed, leaving the Egyptian food supply in ruins. The disaster then moved into the homes. The population was plagued by relentless infestations of lice and frogs, destroying the basic comfort and daily sanity of every Egyptian citizen. The Nile itself, the primary source of Egyptian survival, turned into a thick, corrupted crimson. With the water toxic and the fish dead, the kingdom lost its last remaining lifeline. Pharaoh watched as his economy, his food supplies, and water disappeared. Yet he insisted it was all a delusion created by Musa. He was willing to let his entire country wither rather than admit he was not the supreme power he claimed to be. Under the cover of darkness, Musa led his people out of Egypt. When Pharaoh discovered the escape, he viewed it as a theft of his property. He mobilized his entire elite army to chase them down and bring them back into chains. The Bani Israel reached the edge of the Red Sea, finding themselves trapped between deep water and the approaching Egyptian cavalry. Musa struck the water with his staff. The sea split into 2 towering walls of water, revealing a dry path through the center that allowed the Bani Israel to cross to the other side. Standing at the edge of a divided ocean, Pharaoh did not hesitate. He ignored the impossible walls of water and ordered his elite cavalry to charge onto the exposed seabed, convinced he could conquer the very path opened by a miracle. As the last of the Bani Israel reached safety, the sea collapsed. The weight of the ocean crushed the Egyptian army and claimed the life of the man who had called himself a god. In his final moments, while drowning, Pharaoh cried out that he now believed in the God of Musa. But a confession made only when death is certain was rejected. He had ignored every sign until it was too late to act. Allah decreed that Pharaoh's body would be preserved and brought to the shore to serve as an ibret, a physical lesson for all future generations. The king who once demanded to be worshipped as an eternal deity now sits as a shriveled museum artifact. His story serves as a reminder that regardless of worldly power, every man eventually faces a reality